And we are live. I think. Sorry about that. So, welcome to another chit chat session. To you live from beautiful downtown Crestline in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire. Let me check. Oh, I got to turn off this gadget. It'll make noise and cause rumbling in the podcast or live stream or whatever this is. Okay, I've been asked, a gazillion times, how did you meet Philip K. Dick? Well, I was just barely 18, bored, and always looking for ways to get away from my dysfunctional family. So the lady who used to drive the school bus that I rode on to go to school invited me to a beach party, and she said I could meet some science fiction writer. Well, I never heard of Philip K. Dick. Hi, Jan. Jan Miller is in the chat. Um, I asked her, well, what did he write? And she said, oh, there are so many books, I can't name them all. Later on, months later, I learned that I had read one of his books and one of his short stories. But at the time, I had no idea who this guy was. I'm still not really a science fiction fan. Most of what I read was nonfiction. And the fiction I did read was mostly the classics and not the ones they assign to you in college either. Things like Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist, David Copperfield. So I'm at this. It was supposed to be a beach party, but it was the Saturday closest to the 4th of July, so of course the food was the food. I guess I'm hungry. The beach was incredibly crowded. And they wanted to barbecue, and all the barbecue pits were taken. So we went to somebody's house. And the only person I knew there was Ginger, who used to drive the school bus when I was in high school. Uh, well, it turns out that she was Philip K. Dick's girlfriend at the time, but she was dumping him. And Phil didn't even really notice me. He was focused on Ginger. I thought he looked to be about 30 years old. Turns out he was slightly over 40. But not a big deal. I didn't care. Most of the boys I met my own age were just ridiculous. I wasn't into them. Anyway, there we were with a bunch of strangers. They were barbecuing, and I don't even remember the food. No clue what I ate. But Phil didn't even notice me. But I caught on that he was focused on Ginger, and she was telling him, "No, it's over. I'm dumping you. Go away." So I started flirting with him. And that's when he noticed me. He gave up on Ginger. Now, at one point, people were pouring Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola. And here, I didn't drink. I was too young to drink, really, at 18. But they offered me one. Phil offered me one. And I told him to make it weak because I don't drink. Well, it wasn't weak. I drank a sip and it was way too strong, so I poured out half of it onto the grass out back and went in to add more Coca-Cola to it. Phil was upset that I wasted good Jack Daniels, but really, I couldn't drink that. So we started interacting, hugging and kissing and stuff. And then when it was time to leave, I think it must have been around 10 o'clock at night, maybe later, Ginger had gotten too drunk to drive me home. I didn't drive, didn't have a clue where we were anyway. Somewhere in Santa Ana, in Orange County, California. So she handed Phil the keys to her car, but Phil had a phobia about driving. So he said, "No, Tim Powers will drive me home," and Ginger told them to take me home too. Well, I didn't go home. I went to Phil's apartment. So that's how I met Philip K. Dick. And in the morning, when he was sober again, he realized how young I looked and he was upset about that. Demanded to know if I was of age. Are you 18? I mean, I don't want to have sex with a minor child. Well, I had no ID other than my school ID from my high school. You see, I didn't have a sheltered childhood. I was not sheltered. I was imprisoned. I did have a temporary, a paper learner's permit to learn how to drive. It was expired. I had taken the driver's test twice. I just couldn't pass it. Later on, Phil got me driving lessons. I'm trying to remember, was it May Company? It was one of the big department stores actually also offered driving lessons. Hi, Lucas. Welcome in to the chat. So, Broadway, it was the Broadway School of Driving, part of the chain of Broadway department stores. I don't think they exist anymore. And after I got actual lessons, I was fine for driving. You see, my high school did not offer driver education, only the book learning, not the driving learning. Anyway, I was naive, hadn't been out in the world very much. I had started working when I was 15, stocking vending machines and then taking out the coins and rolling them up so they could be deposited at the bank. And because I wasn't home after school to do chores, because I was working and earning money, my mother demanded that I pay her part of my salary every week. Well, anyway, then I left home at 17 for a few months and got a job in a factory and worked there until President Nixon canceled a bunch of aerospace contracts. He was getting us out of Vietnam, so he didn't want to be making all these new aircraft for fighting in Vietnam. So the little company I worked for that made parts for the big company lost their contract and had to let a bunch of people go, and I was one of them. So I went back home, still only 17, finished high school as a home schooled, well, at home, but enrolled in an actual private school that my mother enrolled me in. And the reason I had that job with the vending machines was because I had to pay my own tuition at the school that my mother chose for me. But it turned out to be a good school, except that they didn't teach anyone how to drive a car. Well, I finished all my high school work, but I was seriously ill when I came home at 17, and my father was supposed to pay my tuition because I had to stay home and take care of my stepsister's illegitimate baby so that she could go out and party. So I was looking for a way out anyway. I had an offer of a scholarship at the University of Idaho, but I wanted to join the Navy. My father's uncle was in the Navy, and one of his brothers was in the Coast Guard. And I think my uncle on mom's side was also either Marines or Navy. I think Marines. And I thought, that'd be an even better way to get away from my family. I mean, my mother wouldn't let me take my dream job at Beckman Electronics because, again, I didn't drive. I would have to get to work when I was 17. Let's see, Lucas Sicardi is not your real name. Yeah, that's a lot of people have different names. Oh, so you're Lorenzo. Well, hi, Lorenzo. So there I was, already planning my escape. Turned 18, went to this random party where I was invited by Ginger, who used to drive the school bus that I rode on. Bunch of strangers. And Ginger said I could meet this science fiction writer that I never heard of. I'm still not really a science fiction fan. Of course, now I'm a Philip K. Dick fan. And there it turns out Ginger is his girlfriend. She's dumping him. He's clinging. And when I caught on that it was over between them, I started flirting. Phil didn't even notice me before that. I had made some smart remark. Phil had asked me my name because Ginger told him to drive me to the party where we were going. And I said my nickname was Buzz. Phil thought that was cute, but I didn't, when he was trying to get my attention to tell me to get in the car so we could go, I didn't answer to Buzz. Uh, and then Ginger name, not my legal name. But Mom called me Tess. At school, I demanded to be called by my right name, the one on my birth certificate, which was Leslie. Tora, she keeps bugging me, but when I give her treats, she doesn't want them. You have to make your appearance for your adoring fans. Yeah. You don't get treats for free. You want me to just hug you? She's upset because the 3 feral kittens were in cages all night so they could go to get spayed and neutered this morning. Oh, I'm not putting you in a cage. You're already spayed. Yes, you're a cutie pie. Are you a huggy bear? You weigh too much. You're heavy. So, anyway, Phil didn't notice me till we were at the party at some stranger's house, and I flirted with him. I kind of knew, sort of intuition at the time, that this man was the one I wanted. I really wasn't into the boys in high school. There was one I kind of had rapport with, but he was a junkie. So, he was hooked on heroin. I just couldn't deal with that. Uh, anyway, I went home with him that night. Well, I've written a book, Jan. It doesn't cover everything. It's mostly about the pink light experience of 1974, but it's called Philip K. Dick Remembering Firebright. These details are things I've rarely discussed. But Phil was concerned the next morning when he was sober. He'd been drunk that night, I guess because Ginger was dumping him. And in the morning, he was concerned, are you 18? Are you old enough to have sex? I don't want to be with a minor child. And I guess I looked younger than I was, but I was 18. But Ginger got super drunk and handed Phil the keys to her car to take me home. And Phil said, no, I'm too drunk to drive. So Tim Powers drove us home, only I decided to go home with Phil instead of home to my crazy dysfunctional family, where Mom didn't want me to get a job where I might have to cross the street to get to work. Criminy. I was, you know, well, hi, Evie. You're late. High EV. Let's see, what did Jan say? Yeah, this is what everybody wants to know whenever I get interviewed. And I've gone over it before, but I felt that I should go over it again and add more detail. Tora, you're bugging me and you're covering me with cat hair. She won't let me brush her. I guess it doesn't feel good. So she's always shedding. And it's time to sweep the rug again because it's covered in cat hair. Oh, hi, Top Rankin. Yeah, the 3 little feral kittens are off to get spayed and neutered. And Tora's upset because the kittens had to stay in cages overnight to make sure they didn't eat and maybe calm them down before they go in to get their surgery. They're coming back tonight and they'll spend the night in my house in their cages again. So tomorrow I can let them out. I managed to put 2 of them into the cages. The third one had to be trapped. She's very skittish. But I have great hopes that one of them will be adoptable. The other one's kind of maybe, and the other is no way. So they'll be living here, feral, but getting fed. Philip K. Dick, he loved cats. He was not much of a dog person. Yeah. Ow! God! Don't bite your mommy! Get off of me. I don't know what you want. I'm giving you treats and you walk away. You want to try it again? Here, Tora. She's terribly upset. She might be afraid that I'll put her in a cage. Well, where are you? If you don't want treats, what do you want? There, here. Eat them or don't. Ah, she's eating treats. Finally. God, that hurt. She put her jaw on my forearm and bit hard. If I were not wearing this sweater, she would have broken the skin. Cats. Tora is part bobcat. Hi, Blacker. Okay. So, contrary to popular misconception, I flirted with Phil. He didn't notice me until he finally gave up on Ginger, who was dumping him, and I started flirting with him. He had many, he wasn't capable of being monogamous or faithful. He had many wives and girlfriends. 5 wives, actually. He claimed the first one didn't count because it lasted only a couple months. and she married someone else and really wanted nothing to do with Phil or his family. She's no longer living. We couldn't find her after Phil died to get her side of the story. But eventually, sometime after Phil's death, we found an obituary. She had died. Well, Phil, let's see, Ginger was about Phil's age, but she was dumping him. She said he wasn't any good in bed. Tora, don't bug me if you just want to bite me. Here, have some treats. They're on the chair where where it isn't covered in cat hair. Eat them or don't. No comment, Evie. I don't discuss my sex life. It's off limits. But we did produce a beautiful son. Phil was very romantic. God, Tora, I'm not going to let you sit on my lap if you're going to bite me. Give it up. Well, you don't want Ritz crackers. Did I give you the wrong flavor of treats? Is that it? God. They're here. Have some of these. You'll have a smorgasbord, okay? And some of these. I'm tired of the game, Tora. If you want your treats, you have to go where they are and not tell me where I have to put them. She's giving me the look. Okay. She wants them there. She'll have them there. She's still not eating them. Yes, Phil met my mother, and after that, he said, I didn't believe you about how awful she is. She's awful. And yet he signed a book to her. I think it was the hardcover of Flow My Tears, the policeman said. He signed it to Elaine, a neat lady. I eventually sold it to John Tutongi up in Washington State, a professor. And since then, John Tutongi has sold it on to a Philip K. Dick fan. All right, I'll put some treats in your kitty cat condo. You want them? Eat them or don't. Cats. I want a dog, but I can't afford to keep one. One vet bill would ruin me. So I'm already taking a chance by having a cat. In fact, Tora got a broken leg, and the vet bill used up my entire stimulus check during COVID. Thank God I had the stimulus check. Oh, Evie just got his or her, I guess. Can't tell. Daughter a puppy. Things are rough for everyone. Oh, You demand to sit on my lap so you can bite me again? You get off of me. I don't want you biting me. Yeah, eat your treats. Jeez. He, him. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, it's hard to tell from your little image. Whoops. Camera. Okay. And pay no attention to the clock. It isn't working because the battery went dead. The clock. I'd rather have a wind-up clock, but that's what I have, a battery clock. So, let's see. Jan, the cats will be okay. The feral ones actually come into the house. They don't socialize with me, but they like my house. Oh, Lucas/Lorenzo wants to know about my current life. Oh, yeah. Over the years, I had a series of dreams about some major disaster. The sky went dark. It was raining steadily for something like 3 days. And along with my siblings, but not our parents, my two brothers and my little sister, we were just walking through the rain. And there was chatter going on that the National Guard was going to lead us to the evacuation center, but we shouldn't go there because we'd pretty much be prisoners. Long story short, because there were so many dreams, I came to live in the mountains. I wrote a fictional account of that, which I put at the end of my autobiography, Tessa B. Dick, My Life on the Edge of Reality. And toward the end, it involves black helicopters. But it's really about a doppelganger, the story, the fictional story. And I do seem to have at least one doppelganger. In Orange County, California, people have mistaken me for this other person, and one of them refused to believe that I was not that person. But the way I see it, God led me to live in these mountains, the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's inland empire. San Bernardino is a huge county. It's larger than several states. And the Board of Supervisors is exploring the possibility of leaving California. Apparently, there are constitutional problems with trying to form a separate state, but we could join Nevada or Arizona. We share borders with Nevada and Arizona. We could do like those counties in Oregon that want to join Idaho. Oh, let me see. if I can find a link to my book. Here we go. Google has stuff about it. Yeah, here we go. The cover art is by a good friend in England whose name I keep forgetting. Oh, I'm terrible with names. No, it's not a reference to David Lynch's film Inland Empire. I've never seen it, but if you watch the network news, they always talk about the Inland Empire, which is San Bernardino and Riverside counties. Back about 100 years ago, Riverside seceded from San Bernardino because the people in Riverside did not like all the drunks in San Bernardino. And before that, San Bernardino seceded from Los Angeles County. Because they didn't like the corrupt politicians in Los Angeles. We're a huge county. Imagine when these two counties were part of Los Angeles. Orange County also seceded from Los Angeles County. Orange County is very conservative, and Los Angeles County is very liberal. Anyway, I'm in basically a mountain cabin with a good plot of land for gardening. And I used to have good neighbors. Things have changed. I hate becoming that person, but I'm going to have to start sicking the authorities on the people who block the end of our street and run off-road vehicles up and down the street for fun. They also run very loud music late at night, and it turns out it isn't their stereo system. It's a friend of theirs who has a massive stereo system in his car. You can hear it a block away. We do have a homeless problem here, but we actually take care of the homeless. We don't give them money because, they'll buy drugs. But if they're hungry, we'll feed them. If they have pets, like a dog or a cat, we'll give them food for their pet. Now, if they're sitting in front of the post office playing a guitar and singing, we might drop a few coins into the hat. They're actually doing some work. And some of them do arts and crafts and sell them in consignment shops. And what happens is you get sick or you lose your job. and you can't pay your rent, and you're out, and you can't raise the deposits to get into a new place. And yet, all over this mountain, there are squatters who just find a vacant house, break in, and set up housekeeping, and it can take a full year to get them out. Can anyone afford to keep making monthly payments on a house that's inhabited by squatters who are probably destroying the place, tearing it apart, and stealing anything that isn't nailed down? Well, there's some squatters next door to me, but they're actually a different breed. They're actually improving the house. They used to be renters, but the owner tried to sell the house and he needed them out. But they're not tearing the place apart, they're fixing it up. On the other hand, I don't know, they have too many pets, dogs and cats. I don't know. But they seemed like nice people, sort of. Was Phil a James Joyce fan? Oh, yeah. Especially, oh, I've lost the title of the book, but it was about Zelda, James Joyce's wife, who was, I guess, schizophrenic. And he was a massive alcoholic himself. Oh, yeah, he um, used to read aloud from Finnegan's Wake. That was Phil's idea that Finnegan's Wake is connected to the communication system of the future. Evie had to put down the booze. Yeah, right. Zelda was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald. I thought that was what I said. Maybe I misspoke. Oh, the schizophrenic was his daughter Lucia. Why can't I remember the title of the book? Let's see. Google is my friend. It's on the tip of my brain. Tender is the night. Well, Ditch, YouTube recommended this because Philip K. Dick is in the title. I was married to him. Wife number 5. Although he claimed that the first one didn't count, so it was actually 4. Yes, the empire never ended. I'm going to put that on a coffee mug and offer it, through one of those sites where I'd get a commission. Rex Felix, yeah, King Felix. Felix meaning faithful, I believe. I studied Latin, but it was back in the Dark Ages when I was a teenager. Well, thank you, Lucas / Lorenzo. Uh, Happy. Oh, I'm smoking too much. Nothing new there. Honestly, during the day when I'm out and about doing things, I don't smoke this much. It's when I'm sitting here on the internet chatting with you guys. I think I'm self medicating. Nicotine is supposed to be a stimulant, but it actually calms me. And some people claim that it kills the COVID virus. Well, Phil was amazing, but he was traumatized. Oh, it's an antipsychotic? Nicotine? Cool. It never stopped me from having visions, but I know that they're visions and not the quote real world. My mother used to light the next cigarette from the last one. When a cigarette got really low, really short, she'd take a new one and use the old one to light it. Ugh. I don't quite do it that bad. Anyway, he wanted a son. He had two daughters, different mothers. He wanted a son, and I gave him the son he wanted. And that 1973, our son was born in the midst of the Watergate hearings, the impeachment of Richard Nixon. 1974, Phil had those visions. It was not a wisdom tooth. It was a molar that broke. He bit into, of all things, a hot dog bun. And his tooth shattered. He was terribly afraid of the dentist and didn't take good care of his teeth. So, anyway, he went to the oral surgeon who actually removed two teeth, the broken one and the one next to it. And we were traveling by taxi cab. I didn't drive yet, and Phil didn't want to drive. It frightened him. He had a lot of phobias. So we had them send the prescriptions to a pharmacy that would deliver them. And it was, of course, antibiotics for the infection and pain pills. Percodan, which is sort of the equivalent of, well, it's one of the codeine substitutes. It's almost like morphine. Or Vicodin, or whatever the newest one is. Well, the lady from the pharmacy delivered the pills. A really cute blonde woman. And Phil, being still drowsy because he'd been put to sleep for the surgery, realized, oh no, I'm looking down her blouse. Why am I doing that? He was embarrassed. So, no, not lidocaine. That's a topical anesthetic like Solarcaine for sunburn. Uh, anyway, he was embarrassed, so to make an excuse, he asked her about her necklace, her pendant. Yeah, oh, the newest one is fentanyl. Yuck, crazy, idiotic. I can't take those drugs. All they do is make me vomit. And I'm talking projectile vomiting, going out several feet. So anyway, her necklace was a gold chain with a little fish sign, one of the early Christian symbols, and Phil already knew all about it. We had gone to the Berean bookstore, and he had bought a little sticker, oh, maybe 6 inches long and 2 or 3 inches high. It was supposed to be a bumper sticker for your car, but Phil put it on our picture window in our apartment. And so he knew very well what the fish sign was, but he let her explain it. You see, the cross was not originally the Christian symbol. Even when Constantine put the Christian symbol on a flag at the head of his army and won the battle at something bridge and became the sole emperor of Rome, it was not a cross. It was the Chi Rho, basically what would look to you and me like the letter P with a X overlaid on top of it. Anyway, I was busy writing the check for the prescription when she came to the door, so I got up to go meet her, but Phil came down the hall to the door in such a hurry that he beat me to it. So after gave the lady the check and shut the door, Phil turned around, and the sunlight hitting that silver fish sticker temporarily blinded him, so he was seeing pink light. Now I've forgotten the word for it. Old age ain't all it's cracked up to be. Phosphine activity, where your eyes, after being blinded by a bright light, your eyes will actually make colors. And that was the pink beam that hit Phil. It's still from a fish sign, but not the lady's necklace. He immediately went into the bathroom and took his pills. He was supposed to take one pain pill, but he took two and went and lay down. And that's when his visions began. He was seeing rectangular figures that were bright pink light because the fish sticker was rectangular. EV wants 3 of them. I don't want any. Percodan. And there was another one before that, which was basically the same thing. Oh, it was, the little pink ones you can, they discontinued those. People were hallucinating on pain pills. Well, all of these opioids can cause hallucinations depending on the dose. Now, Phil originally was upset about the rumors that he was a drug addict and couldn't write anymore, because he wasn't. However, eventually he gave up fighting the rumor mill and started making out that he was a great big drug addict, taking all kinds of pills and smoking all kinds of things. Wasn't true. He had LSD 2 times, and both times his friend, how could I forget his name? He passed away recently. book was, Ray Nelson, who wrote the story that John Carpenter's They Live was based on. His friend Ray Nelson, who knew him in high school, before either one of them was a writer or an editor, Ray Nelson gave it to him. He got it from the lab at UCLA. It was pharmaceutical, not a street drug. Oh, yeah, he did some amphetamines because his doctor prescribed them, partly for weight loss and partly for depression. My father and my uncle, this was early 60s, both my father and my uncle were put on amphetamines by their doctors. My uncle to lose weight, my father because he was recovering from a broken back and trying to go to college and work part-time. So it was just to keep him awake. And they both discovered after a while that these things were addictive, so being rather practical, they just quit taking them. Better to go through a day of withdrawals than to be hooked on them for life. Oh, Ditch says 8 o'clock in the morning was the book. To know. They Live, oh, Rowdy Piper and the Sunglasses, that's a great movie. Well, anyway, if you passed him a joint, a marijuana cigarette, he would smoke it, but he didn't seek it out. He didn't buy drugs and he didn't sell drugs. And he was horrified by what was happening to the drug addicts in Oakland and Berkeley and San Francisco because mostly the heroin that was available was contaminated. And the drug is bad enough, but when it's contaminated too, you have all kinds of problems. And Phil described one man who would just stay in the shower all day trying to get rid of the bugs that were biting him, invisible bugs. Well, I've learned since then that that's a symptom of methamphetamine. It makes you itch terribly, painfully. Oh, Lucas Lorenzo has to leave. Thanks for checking in. You can always watch the replay if you want, but I'm glad you dropped in. Thank you. And his novel, A Scanner Darkly, shows his anti-drug attitude, but not anti-drug addict. He could see that those people needed help, not punishment. They were trying to treat some problem that they had, which the doctors were not treating. By the 1970s, doctors were afraid to prescribe pain pills, even to people who had obvious, serious, debilitating pain. So people who could not get the prescription from the doctor were turning to the street because they had actual pain that needed relief. Well, thank you, Ditch. Thank you for dropping in. I usually have a few minutes about Philip K. Dick. I'm kind of focused on him in this one. I mean, he was a huge part of my life. And I'm grateful for the time I had with him. I just wish it had been longer. Well, Phil's visions had real substance. And to this day, I believe that someone was experimenting with the voice of God technology, putting words into his head with some kind of radio or microwave radiation, telling him to kill himself. Apparently, they thought he was a good friend of Dr. Timothy Leary and therefore one of the most dangerous men in the world, all because of an innocent phone call from that hotel in Canada. It was the second bed-in with Yoko Ono and John Lennon. There were a bunch of people there singing Give Peace a Chance, and the anti-Vietnam War song. One of them was Dr. Timothy Leary, and another one of them was Paul Williams, the journalist who knew Phil, who had spent time with him. And Paul Williams called Phil from that hotel room and said, "Hey, Dr. Timothy Leary wants to talk to you." And Phil thought it was nonsense. He didn't believe him. And then Dr. Leary got on the phone and just said, "I'm a big fan of your work." That was it. But because the political atmosphere was so paranoid, someone in authority in some agency decided that Philip K. Dick was this terrible insurrectionist, a revolutionary. And because of Leary's connection to illegal drugs, therefore Philip K. Dick must be into illegal drugs too. And he was harassed. His house was broken into and trashed. And what they took were financial records, tax records, and the manuscripts of his books. Not cash, not an expensive watch, not gold coins. Financial records, manuscripts, tax records. So he fled to Canada, where he was guest of honor at a science fiction convention, and he rented a hotel room there. Apparently, it's like an apartment in the United States, it's a monthly thing. He was abducted by two men in black suits. He was shoved into the back of a black limousine and driven around, drugged and hypnotized, and told to kill himself, and he almost did. There was a sleeping pill, also recently known as a date rape drug, or a Mickey Finn. That's old. You could get it without a prescription in Canada. And he woke up sitting on the floor of his apartment. The bottle of pills was empty. There was a glass of water. It was mostly empty. And he realized what he had done, didn't remember doing it. got on the phone and called for help. So the effect of his 74 experience on one level to remember what had been done to him. Hi, Freeman. Hi, L. Freeman. You're late. You'll need to listen to the replay. So some organized group, undoubtedly some agency of the federal government, was out to get Phil. And as Phil used to say, we even had a poster that said it. Just because I'm paranoid does not mean that you are not out to get me. How soon does the curtain go up? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I've been on for an hour. Hang on, my water glass is empty. I'll be right back. Oh, heck. Now I have to recycle some coffee. It'll be just a minute. Don't go away. What are you doing to me? Dum-de-dum. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Dum-a-dee-dum-a-dee-dum. Okay, I'm back, I think. Phew. You thought the kitchen was to the left on the computer? Past the bathroom? No. The kitchen is on the right. Let's see. I can't get. That's the doorway to the bathroom. The kitchen is over there to my right. And the bathroom is over there, also to my right, but on the other end of the wall with the clock. And this house is tiny. On the left, books, windows, boxes of stuff. Oh, now that is weird. I'm never going to get used to the way this thing works. Yeah, that's a reflection of, this is the reflection in the window of that lamp. I have lots and lots of books, most of which I've read, at least read part of. Some are references. Here we go. My whole house is basically 20 feet by 20 feet. In other words, 400 square feet. The bedroom is too small for even a double bed. It'll only hold a twin bed. And the bathroom is too small to have an actual bathtub. There's only a shower. The kitchen is really too small for two people to work in there at the same time. If two people are in there and the one at the stove wants to leave, they both have to leave. So anyway, it's tiny. And there is a little mud porch with a broom closet. And I mean a little mud porch. It's about 2 feet by 2 feet. But that's where you knock the mud off your shoes before you step up into the house. It's also where the water pools up in a rainstorm so it does not get into the house and wreck your carpet. Okay, let's see. I've gone through meeting Phil, birth of our son, Watergate, and the pink light experience, and how he was harassed really terribly. And I don't think Phil appreciated how naive I was, even compared to other 18-year-olds, because Mom didn't let me out of the house. She was afraid that if I crossed the street, I'd get hit by a car. Not afraid that I'd get killed, but afraid that I'd be injured and she'd have to take care of me. So most of what I knew about life came from watching television. She ran our family like a cult, and she got into all these weird things like Ayn Rand and this guy named Galambos who was selling what do you call them, lectures, I guess, about how the United States was going to fall apart into anarchy and lawlessness. And she went from being somewhat religious and occasionally sending us to Sunday school. She went from that to being an atheist because she had joined Foursquare Gospel, the church of Amy Semple McPherson. So when the world did not come to an end, when McPherson predicted it, Mom became an atheist. There must not be a God because the world is still here. Yeah, I read Atlas Shrugged. I found it interesting. But libertarians have taken that too far. It has become male-dominated, with husbands who feel no obligation to share anything with their wives. Even when they're pregnant or give birth, the husband feels no obligation to support her financially or to do the work that she used to do around the house because she's pregnant or nursing a baby. it's just free sex for men. It isn't really libertarian, it's libertine. Well, some say that Phil predicted artificial intelligence, like the door that won't let Chip in or out unless he pays it a nickel. And his credit cards are all maxed out, so he can't pay his door to open for him. Or, I keep forgetting the title of the story, but there's this little robot that sells him a hamburger. And when he changes his mind, it says, you can't change your mind, you're buying a hamburger. Well, Freeman, yeah, you can be a libertarian without going overboard. But I had some contact with the Libertarian Party and I was not happy. In particular, one woman who was married to a lawyer was driving a beat up old car that barely ran. She gave me a ride and asked for gas money, and she needed it. And she couldn't even ride to the event with her husband. She had to go in her own beat up old wreck of a car. I don't know why she put up with that. I don't know what she should have divorced him and demanded half his money. They might not have been legally married, but in California that doesn't matter because now we have the I forget what they call it, but if you live together as if you were married, you're married when it comes to divorce. Oh, Freeman needs coffee too. I have tea, coffee, and water. No, it isn't common law marriage. We don't have that in California. It's just, I just can't remember what they call it. There's an actual law, and it's something about partner, some kind of partner, domestic partner. That's it. If you're a domestic partner and you have the same rights as a spouse in divorce court. There was a famous case with some famous person, and I don't remember who it was, but the domestic partner sued for when they broke up for support and won. Oh, L. Freeman says an ex-girlfriend tried to sue him. Well, if you weren't living together and all that stuff. Oh, it was Lee Marvin. Thank you, Freeman. Well, anyway, yeah, stuff happens. I prefer to live alone with my cat. There's some great guys around, but frankly, no one can follow the act of Philip K. Dick. Well, I don't know. My cat bit me this morning, Freeman. She bit me real hard. I think she's just upset about the feral kittens. They were in their cages overnight so they could go get spayed and neutered, and maybe Tora thinks she's next. She was very upset about that, but she's already spayed. She's an actual pet. The 3 kittens are feral. Some feral cat just decided to have her babies at my house, and then the mama disappeared. Well, I had a marriage, I had a child, I had the best friend I've ever had, frankly. But Phil was traumatized. He was damaged, injured, and sometimes it showed in his behavior. But when he was himself and not anxious or disturbed, he was wonderful. And the conversations, I love the intellectual side of him. And I was ready to accept his mystical experiences because I'd had a few of my own. And they were real, they just were not as dramatic as the way he told them because he was developing a novel. Like Valis. It had to be more dramatic in fiction. You've probably noticed how movies are so much more dramatic than the books and stories. Well, real life isn't as dramatic as the way an author tells it in fiction. Um, Noise outside distracted me, but they were real. And he did predict our son's hernia, or diagnose, I guess. But it wasn't all that drama. Phil was taking a nap, which he often did, and he got up, appeared to be in a trance, walked out to the living room and said, Chrissy has an inguinal hernia. Call Dr. Quack and tell him. We called him Dr. Quack, the doctor, the family doctor. Anyway, I did, and made an appointment, and took a few days later took our baby in, and he examined him and said, yeah, he has an inguinal hernia. Referred us to a specialist, a surgeon. So a week later, we went to the surgeon, and he said, yeah, he has an inguinal hernia, but he's too young to have the surgery. In the meantime, don't let him scream. Don't let him cry. If he cries, you know how babies cry, their whole belly's involved. To me, it was screaming. Don't let him keep crying because the hernia could strangulate from all the muscles in his belly when he cries. And that would be life-threatening. So for how long was it? January, December, November. 6 months, I think, 5 or 6 months. I was up all night walking around with the baby in my arms, sitting in the rocking chair with the baby in my arms so he wouldn't keep crying. Before he finally had the surgery. He had the surgery in January. Phil had his oral surgery on his bad teeth in February. And then in March, the Xerox letter arrived. Bought it, played it, loved it is here. Okay, I'll just say hi. Bought. Well, we're on the verge of both World War III and a civil war here in America. We're right on the edge, and I hope we don't fall over. It's frightening. But you know, many prophets have predicted the end of the world, and when it didn't happen, their followers lost faith. I'm not predicting the end of the world, but I'm hoping that we'll settle down and get back to common sense and common courtesy. The problem is, the elites never let a good disaster go to waste. They use it to enrich themselves and impoverish everyone else. They're about control. They don't really care about the money. They want control. They want the unwashed masses to be their servants, their slaves. And it isn't just what we do that counts. It's like Orwell's 1984. They want to control our thoughts. And AI, remember ego. Garbage in, garbage out. AI is programmed by a human. And even if it can learn by searching Google, guess what? Most of what's on Google was written by humans. There's a case I heard about recently in which a lawyer used chatbot to write his brief, and it cited fake cases that did not exist, and he was caught. And he said, well, I asked chatbot if those cases were real, and it said yes. He didn't bother to look up the public websites that will tell you whether they're real. You know, it lists real cases. You can look them up with a little search box. The way I see it, these wealthy, entitled elites cannot control themselves, so they project it onto others. They can't control their own negative impulses, so they try to control us. They're accusing ordinary working people, lower class. We don't really have a middle class anymore. You're either lower or upper. And they project their faults onto the rest of us. And they want to punish us for their crimes. Lazy lawyer or lawyer so swamped with work he's too busy to do it right? Jeez, I wish I had that much work. Well, I do have a huge project going over the exegesis of Philip K. Dick to condense it and clarify it. But I don't have time for it. I keep having to stop and do things to earn money to keep the lights on. I can't monetize this channel because, oh, I think it's been at least 10 years, maybe 20. I had Google ads on my blog, and Google went and canceled thousands of accounts like mine, including mine, without explanation, and they kept all the money we'd already earned. I've appealed twice, and they're still keeping my lousy $20 that I earned. And I can't do Google Pay again. And YouTube is owned by Google, so I can't monetize my channel. And at this point, I'm so disgusted that if they offered to let me reopen an account, I wouldn't do it, because they'll probably cancel me again and keep all my money again. So I have basically Buy Me a Coffee, GoFundMe, and PayPal, plus my books on Amazon. I'm not sure. Oh, you want to go to transhuman space? I don't want any stinking chips in me. Suppose I have a chip in my hand that allows me to get money out of the bank. Do you know what a robber is going to do? He's going to cut off my hand and take it to every ATM in town. And I certainly don't want a chip in my brain. I wrote a surrealistic novel about that. The Darkening of the Light. It's hexagram 36 in the I Ching. That's where I got the title. Yeah, I can wear it in a watch. There's the case of the robbers who encountered a man whose expensive Omega watch had a lock on the wristband, and he was too slow in getting out the key and unlocking it for the robbers, so they just cut off his hand so they could take his watch. Hi, Morgan. Been on for an hour and a half. You guys are just going to need to watch the replay where I talked about meeting Philip K. Dick. He didn't even notice me till I started flirting with him. Not because he was a famous science fiction writer. I didn't know who he was. I just had this intuition that he was the one for me. Hi, Oswald. Reading the I Ching made you itch? From chicken. Oh, you had chicken pox. Okay. Well, I Ching is not to sit down and read, although I have done that from time to time. You have to cast a hexagram and look it up. And I don't remember exactly how to do it. I've seen video after video of reactions to the songs by Oliver Anthony. Very interesting. I think he nailed it. He has the top 5 slots on a music website whose name I've forgotten. He's on the charts. I don't think his music is strictly speaking country. I think it's more folk music, like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. I got itchies, cat hair all over me. Yes, L. Freeman, I saw that the email was there, but I haven't opened it yet. Yeah, I understand. Mirror cracked, redoing. I could have made it a longer story myself, or at least added a few details, but I kind of like it the way it is. And as I said, I keep having to drop everything and do something to earn a little money. Hi, Witta. You thought it was Wednesday? I think it is Wednesday. Yeah, my computer says it is. Oh, you forgot it was Wednesday. Well, there'll be a replay. It's horrible. The welfare system began in the 1960s, and they get a whole bunch of people dependent on that monthly check and the food stamps, and then they start making changes. So the only way you can live on that is to cheat, because if you actually get a job and earn some money, they'll take it away when you really aren't earning enough to get by. Yeah, well, people like to bash the people on welfare, but they're really trapped. And they won't give welfare to men unless they're either alcoholics or drug addicts. At least in California, alcoholics and drug addicts can get welfare because they're disabled. People who are actually disabled get denied disability. And I know one lady who is on disability and is disabled, but she has to pay cash for medical care, I guess for medical insurance, and she has a huge deductible. For some reason, you can't get Medi-Cal or Medicaid when you're on disability, or at least she can't. A friend of Freeman said, I have to go to Bulgaria if I want to live the American dream. That's interesting. So, they get people dependent on this aid from the government, and then they make sure that it's never enough to actually get by unless you cheat, which doesn't do much for your self-esteem. And then they have the nerve to make you jump through all types of hoops. I think it's every 3 months. For some people, it's once a year. But they send you this tiny envelope inside a huge envelope. You have to fill out all these forms and add some copies of documents and try to stuff them into the tiny envelope to return them. They don't fit. And if you don't get those documents back in time, you're cut off entirely, and you have to reapply and fill out all the same forms again and copy all the same documents again and wait. I'm on Social Security. They increased it for inflation, but what they do is after you've gone for a year under that inflation, cutting everything you can cut and scrimping to get by and selling your everything you own to cover the difference, then they give you the increase for inflation after you've already suffered. And it's never the real rate of inflation. It was something like 8.5% for 2022. Well, everything at the grocery store costs twice as much. And yes, I have food stamps, but it doesn't cover toilet paper, vitamins. I can buy all kinds of junk food, but I can't get a bottle of vitamins. It doesn't cover soap, detergent, paper goods. It's ridiculous. Oh, yeah. I usually get them a month after the due date, those forms. But apparently, that's changed, at least for people over 65, which I am. Oh, you've been told to fax it. You have to pay for that. I've never been told to fax it, but I have had to send it overnight mail. And I don't want to be on all this crap. Well, I earned the Social Security. You wouldn't believe how much they took out of my little checks when I was doing factory work and clerical work. There was Social Security tax and Medicare tax and all kinds of stuff. And now they act like it's a handout when I want my own money back. And they claim they didn't steal from Social Security, they just used it to buy government bonds. Well, I watched for a while. I had an actual retirement account when I was teaching. Wasn't much in it, but that money grew a lot faster than what you can get from government bonds. They've been using what we pay into Social Security to fund the general budget through government bonds that don't pay crap. When I had to cash out the retirement during the crash of 07 and 08, but when I had it, it was growing at something like 7%, and government bonds were paying 2 or 3%. It's a Ponzi scheme that our own government runs on us. Yeah. Well, I think my computer will send a fax if I buy a program that does it. I can't afford to buy more stuff. I used to have a fax machine, but it ran on a landline phone, and I can't afford to have a landline phone. They're outrageously expensive. And at least with the cell phone, there are no long distance charges within the continental United States. Oh, yeah, insurance companies are a scam. Social Security, yeah, it's government insurance. And California has screwed over the insurance companies so bad that half of them won't do business here. So people end up with their homes on this California, whatever, insurance that costs 2 or 3 times as much and doesn't cover as much. Florida is having a similar problem. I've been fortunate so far, but I suspect that next year my homeowner's policy will not renew, and I'll have to allow my untrustworthy mortgage company to impose insurance. Oh, that's horrible. Your local church had to shut down completely because after a fire, their insurance company scammed them in Florida. Hi, Gil, Cardinal Sin. I'm kind of winding down. I did all the Philip K. Dick stuff, but putting his name in the title got me some new subscribers. Wow. In some ways, these mountain communities get a better deal from the government uh, because we're in the middle of the national forest. But in other ways, we're so restricted. I have a huge lot. It's 45 feet wide by 150 feet deep, and I have a tiny house on it. But I cannot get a permit to build a second house. And if I want to just remodel this house, it'll cost me a fortune just for the permits. I can't even rebuild my porch that had to be ripped out. I have to get a permit to rebuild my porch. And it's something like $1,000 for the permit, and it doesn't cost that much to build the porch. And I don't have $1,000. I don't know what meadow tags are, Gil. Oh, do you mean meta tags? I got it. Aha. Meta tags. Remembering Firebright. I think I put a link to that in here. Let me see. No, I put a link to my autobiography. Tessa B. Dick, My Life on the Edge of Reality. Why don't I just go to Amazon and find my author page? Assuming that Verizon and Google cooperate. Well, let's try this. All books. At the top, they've put Conversations with Philip K. Dick. In the show notes, I can put in meta tags. Okay. Well, I think putting it in the title is what several people said this podcast or stream or whatever was recommended to them and they didn't know why, but they're fans of Philip K. Dick. So that would explain it. Oh well. We're headed toward the 2-hour mark. Whenever I notice a car out front, I check to see if it's coming here. I had to put up a no parking sign and a no trespassing sign. Where are the cats? Tora and Sweetie are out catting around. The 3 feral kittens are on their way to get spayed and neutered, thanks to a local cat charity. And they'll be back tonight. And tomorrow I can let them out of their cages and they can be cats again. But they won't make more kittens. They're feral. One of them might be adoptable. We'll see. She lets me pick her up, but the question is, will they let other people pick her up and pet her? Wow. I was very upset about kittens in cages. She actually bit me this morning really hard. Fortunately, my sweater saved my arm. She didn't break the skin, but she would have if I hadn't pulled her off of me. Yeah, abandonment of pet animals has skyrocketed to an unbelievable rate in this country. Yes, Gil. All our local shelters are full. Not only the county shelter, but all of the private charitable organizations that take in homeless pets. They're full. And I was not willing to send these kittens to the county to be euthanized. So I've been doing my best to make them adoptable because I really don't need more cats. And it seems successful with one of them, but we'll see. She's okay with me, not sure about other people. But it's really awful. I think people got cats during COVID because they were stuck at home. And once the shelter in place thing was over, they didn't want the cat anymore. That's so cruel. The cat isn't simply there to make you happy. You're supposed to make the cat happy. It's reciprocal. It's kind of like marriage, which doesn't always work out either. Mm. But you don't, well, maybe you do kick your wife or husband out on the curb. But you shouldn't. Anyway, the kittens will be back tonight and out of their cages tomorrow. And Tora will get over it. She wasn't in a cage. But recently, during a feral cat roundup, my sweetie got caught. She was gone for 2 weeks, and I thought she must have died, but it turned out that she'd been picked up. She'd been trapped in one of those cages, but because she's spayed, they brought her back. Thank God I managed to get her spayed when she was young. Because right now I can't get near her. Not even with pet treats, cat treats. Now, the house next door has 9 cats, but I'm not saying anything because if the county should come and take away their cats, they'll kill the cats. It isn't fair to punish the cats for owners who don't spay and neuter. Oh, I don't want to go on YouTube with the kittens. So, hi, sweetie. Hello, sweetie. In my best Doctor Who voice, wife. Let's see if I can get her on camera. Sort of. There she is, eating away. She's a beautiful cat. I dropped things. Oh well. Let's get the camera put back. There, here we go. The doctor's wife always says, "Hello, sweetie." Oh yeah, I put some treats in her dish too. Anyway, don't worry about it, Freeman. I'm covered for this week. Part of the problem is that I have to have groceries delivered. Because our local grocery store is kaput, it got smushed in Snowmageddon. The nearest grocery store is kind of far away on a bad road, and not bad for the people who live in Lake Arrowhead, but to get up there, yeah, it's bad because the roads were smushed during Snowmageddon too. Anyway, I end up having things delivered quite often, and the worst part of it is waiting for it to be delivered. Well, I hope you get paid, Freeman, and get the stuff you need. I'm kind of on the edge, but I got a little donation on GoFundMe from a very helpful person. $30 doesn't sound like much, but sometimes it's exactly what I need. And I put off buying things that can wait. Like if I'm out of laundry soap, okay, I'll wait until I get a check before I buy some more. Our local mini marts, like at the gas station, oh, and there's a 7-Eleven and a liquor store too. They've started stocking groceries because our grocery store is shut down, but most of what they're stocking is highly processed junk food. They can't very well have like a meat counter or they have some fresh vegetables, but only things that aren't going to go bad too fast. Yeah, well, Keanu Reeves probably doesn't know who I am. Well, Freeman, if you really needed stuff, I could return some of the funds that you sent me. I did recently sell uh, something for just enough to keep the lights on. And I'm ready to give up all my memorabilia of Philip K. Dick because I have it all in my head and my heart. And that stuff is just stuff. Don't I dare what? Oh, you don't want any money back? Everybody's struggling. Everybody. Except the, the wealthy, entitled elites who don't even care about the money. They just want to run your life. The only reason they want the money is so that you won't have any. Yeah, well, what really messed me up this year is that it was so cold in June and July that I had to run the heater. It was like 40 degrees during the day, room temperature being 72. Let me check because I do have European listeners. 40 F2C. It's 4.5 degrees Celsius. We're just having weird weather, and it happens from time to time in the mountains, especially. Witta. It just in the mountains we have a saying: if you don't like the weather, just wait 2 hours. But I can tell that it's been really bad this year because my tomato plants should have fruit ready for harvest in August, and they're just now making flowers. And some of them have died. The worst part of Snowmageddon was that it killed my grapevine. Maybe next year I'll have enough money to buy another grapevine and try again. See, I want the Concord grapes, the purple ones. They My granny had a grapevine for decades. Every summer I'd get to go there and pick and eat as many grapes as I wanted, and I miss them. And they're completely different from table grapes. They are the kind that they make grape juice from, and in some cases, wine, although there's all kinds of varieties that are used to make wine. Freeman wishes weeds could render fruit. So do I. Well, my blackberry vines are almost weeds. They grow so fast, but they do give me blackberries, and they're awesome. Yeah, if you pull out a plant, it dies. If you pull out a weed, it just grows back. Let's see. Yeah, I still have a few blackberries. Um, they are tasty, but they are not Concord grapes. However, they're easy to grow. As long as they get enough water on a hot day, you'll be blessed with not weeds, berries. What am I saying? Um, I'm going to move the cat treats over to the cat condo. They were on my favorite recliner chair, and Tora turned her nose up at them. She demands treats and then refuses to eat them. She's just reassuring herself that she's in charge. Phil was known for his fondness of cats, yes. Hi, Angus. I'm well over my 2-hour mark, and I am winding down. All the stuff about Philip K. Dick was in the first hour, most of it anyway. I just knew when I saw him that he was the one. And in a way, I'm glad that Ginger broke up with him because that left me free to go after him. Okay, I really gotta go. It's time to eat something. But I'm glad that all of you dropped in. Sorry you came in so late, Angus, but um, I gotta do all kinds of stuff today, like trim the roses and trim back the blackberry vines. But I'm really, really amazed always by my wonderful chat room. It's your chat room, and these streams are for you. So remember prayers and positive thoughts, not just for me, but for all of you. And have a great day, week, month, year, and life. Bye.